It is the most wonderful time of the year. Not Independence or Christmas. It's football season, folks. FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. The first time the world's biggest sporting event will be held during the months of November and December. I'm your host, Damien Best, and this is Match Day Live from the 246, all sponsored by Guardian Group. We thank them so much. Over the next 29 days, we will review all the highlights in action from the 32 teams participating at the World Cup. Today's host country, Qatar, where they battle Ecuador. To help me dissect the action on the pitch, we have three special analysts joining us live. Emerson Boyce, Technical Director of the Barbados Football Association and FA Cup winning captain of Wigan Athletic in 2013. As you know, they defeated Manchester City in that famous final. We also have Gabriela Lopez, former midfielder with NCAA Division I Temple University in Philadelphia, USA, and former captain of the Barbados Under-20 and Under-21 national women's teams. And last but not least, Ronaldo Jilts, Technical Director of Kickstart Rush Football Club here in Barbados, and former national player and national youth team captain. Good evening to you, lady and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Damien.
Fantastic to have you. Just some housekeeping before we go any further. For the first time, CBC has established a fantasy league. It's an opportunity for you at home to select 15 players via the FIFA Plus app. You can also find it on your app store and what's not. And those players are the ones you believe will be the key contributors to their team's success during the tournament. Points are based, of course, on performance. Another opportunity for you to participate is via our predictor game. Each correct prediction before a match day earns you 2 points. You see on screen or fantasy predictions there, and you can participate as well. We give you the code as we go through today's program. Now send your predictions via WhatsApp 228-5562. And we'll tell you more about that and so much more coming up on Match Day Live from the 246 when we come back. Welcome back to Match Day Live from the 246. I'm your host, Damien Best. Of course, we've got an analyst group here with us on the opening night. We've got plenty of guys who are going to participate on this program. Well, let's first get to the highlights of the day before we hear from Emerson, of course, Gabby and Pee Wee on our show. Let's get to the highlights. Ecuador defeating the host Qatar 2-0. Once again, tremendous performance from Ecuador in the opening fixture of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Let's get to our analysts who will dissect today's proceedings. Of course, it was a performance to note from Ecuador over the host. We didn't expect that kind of performance from Qatar. Let's start with the lady on the panel first, Gabriela Lopez. Gabby, do you think the scoreline fairly represented what Qatar put on the pitch?
You know, I think that it did. I think there's no question that Ecuador was a superior team today, with the brace from Ener Valencia. But looking on the bright side for Qatar, I also think that the Qatari players fought hard to maintain the low score deficit. Obviously, everyone comes out to win, but the result could have been, a lot worse for a team who's making their debut against the more seasoned counterparts in, Ecuador. But all in all, relatively fair performance for the Qatari players, who more so for escaping like a demoralizing result on opening night as well. I think that it was fair from that standpoint. Yeah.
Great. Well, let's hear from Emerson. I'm not sure, Emerson, if you agree with Gabby, but obviously you can see who the dominant team was.
Yeah, definitely. I think Gustavo Alfaro will be very happy. It's a professional team performance. They kept the ball when they needed to, and they got the goals. The coaches assembled a very, very talented team there, and Qatar had all the pressure on them. And we talk about pressure. The penalty was absolutely fantastic. We talk about pressure. Opening game of the World Cup, and he just strolls up and strikes the ball home. And the second goal was absolutely fantastic with the header. So Valencia was a difference. I think it was a very, very good performance, and I'm expecting big things in the group from Ecuador.
Well, you're a technical man. Tactically, what did you see on the pitch? I mean, for a moment or two, we saw Qatar look a bit scattered in all aspects in defense. They were scrambling all over the place, not really coordinated.
I think it's just the experience. The pressure might have got to Qatar in terms of how they set up, and adrenaline took over. But Ecuador's got a fantastic defense. They haven't conceded a goal for a number of hours now. And as I say, you've got the talisman up front in Valencia who scored the goal. I know my former teammate will be very happy. Antonio Valencia, he's been captain of Man United and Ecuador. He'll be jumping for joy.
Fantastic. Well, let's get to Pee Wee, my good friend. What did you see tactically as well? Pee Wee, Ronaldo jokes, of course. We call him Pee Wee here. We get nice and casual on the show. What did you see from Qatar that perhaps would have shown you that they can improve in latter games, or did you believe that Ecuador pressed in the way that they really set up and they wanted to do from the beginning?
Well, I mean, funny enough that Emerson spoke about the occasion working against Qatar, because that's one of the things that their coach, Philip Sanchez, mentioned. He said that the occasion probably got to him. However, I believe that Qatar, I was expecting them to offer a bit more, seeing that the last time that these nations played against each other in 2018, Qatar came out on top 4-3. Funny enough, Ener Valencia was the one who scored scored 23 goals for Ecuador. But what I saw from Qatar was, to reiterate what Gabby and Emerson mentioned already, was that inexperience at this stage. We know that Ecuador, they are not one of the top teams in the World Cup, but they do have that experience. And Ener Valencia, who now has 5 goals in the World Cup, more goals than he scored in the Premier League for both West Ham and Everton. But he now has 5 goals, the same as Zinedine Zidane. It shows that they have that extra bit of quality. What surprised me about Ecuador was the way they approached the game. They pressed high and hard for the first 20 minutes within the heat of Qatar. It was like, I believe, 25 degrees Celsius. So to go in and have that confidence to do it, and on the back of the home crowd, that kind of surprised me in the initial stage. But what was also very impressive from Ecuador, who lined up in a 4-4-2, that their midfield was very narrow, and what it did was it allowed them to get a numerical advantage in the midfield. And at the same time, from an offensive perspective, it allowed the fullbacks to get up the pitch and cause a lot of trouble with their trickery and also the crosses, which caused Qatar all types of problems. So I will give kudos to Ecuador and their technical team for the strategy employed. And let's look forward to see what they have to offer for the rest of Group A.
Very interesting thoughts there. So you think that there perhaps can be some level of improvement as the tournament goes on. But I want to talk to you a little bit about looking ahead, Gabby, to to some of the matchups we got coming up as well for the Qatar side. You mentioned that it's not a bad result, but they're in a pretty interesting group involving the Netherlands as well. So it's going to be very tough for them. This is one of the games that they perhaps would have wanted to do a little bit more in terms of scoring and getting on the scorecard. It's going to be tough for them after this.
No, I agree. And I think, as Emerson and Ronaldo both said, they did show today that they lack that experience. And I think, coming out today with a more demoralizing result would have made, the next few games even worse. But I believe they do have a lot of work to do, go back to the drawing board and, come up with some plans to face the teams that they have faced to face in the remainder of the group.
Well, to help support that as well, Gabby, we know in terms of possession, both teams were almost on par. It's just that Ecuador had the finishing touches. And when you look at the final statistics and look at the breaks and attacks, Ecuador, they had 1 or 2 chances, but it was the clinical finishing of the Ecuadorians who really took the cake. I know Emerson, from an attack standpoint, they pressed high, and of course they forced their way into the attacking third. So will we see more of that from Ecuador, or do you think they will adjust as the tournament goes along?
I've got a feeling that's the way they're going to play. I think they set out the stall early in terms of how they want to play. And obviously the big test is the Netherlands game. But I think the head coach is confident in his players. And I think they got a talented player in terms of Valencia. Given the opportunities, he showed that he can score goals. So I think they might go a similar sort of style of play and then see how they progress in the tournament.
Ronaldo, did you see the temperatures, what we call the heat of the stadium affecting anything there in that matchup in particular?
I would probably say it may have, or I would suggest that the way how the second half played, that may have been a factor because Ecuador had seemed to be contented and they played a bit slower, Qatar as well. But I believe that the temperature will play a major part. I just want to go back to what Emerson was mentioning about if we could expect Ecuador to play this style for the remainder of the tournament. I think that when they come against superior opposition, and they have that quality to do that as well, to play on the counter. This way they were if you want to consider them the aggressors, but they have that quality to also play on the counter because they're very stingy. As Emerson mentioned in his opening remarks, their last 7 games now, they have not conceded a goal. So they have that pedigree to defend well and hit you on the break with the pace. Obviously, at Valencia, there's also Estrada and there's Espunian who plays for Brighton. So they have that quality to soak up the pressure and hit them on the break. So I'm really excited to see them play against the Netherlands or maybe advance and play more superior opposition.
Yeah, so that's the action to kick off Group A there at the FIFA World Cup 2022. Don't forget, you can give us your suggestions or your thoughts at 228-5562. This is where we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at some other news, some very important news. Karim Benzema out of the FIFA World Cup 2022. Welcome back to Matchday Live from the 246, all sponsored by Guardian Group. Thanks so much for the sponsorship. We continue on. We take a look at the big news coming out of the FIFA World Cup 2022. Karim Benzema out of the lineup for France, the defending champions. What does this mean for the Frenchmen? It'll be difficult to see if they can replace him, but we want to hear from you. Don't forget, 228-5562. Send on your WhatsApp. What do you think will happen to France now they've lost Karim Benzema, Kante? They've got a long list. But let's go back to our analyst to talk about that just a little bit. Karim Benzema out of the World Cup. A suitable replacement on tap for him, or is this basically the end of the road for France, as far as they could get in the tournament, and then everything else is cherry on top? We'll
I
start
believe
with
that.
Gabby. Anybody can jump in here. Let's go, Gabby.
I personally think it is a big blow for France, especially because they also don't have Kante or Pogba this year. And they would have been huge contributors to their success 4 years ago. And then now, on top of that, Benzema was not available for this year's World Cup. I
Don't really see them repeating this time around and then in Qatar.
Yeah, that left thigh injury sustained during training, ruling Benzema out, if you didn't know the details to it. Emerson, do you believe they have enough, though, to at least reach that final? I'm not sure if they're going to do it, but from a tactical standpoint, where do you reposition the pieces of the puzzle to ensure that they get to that final?
I'm not sure they'll get to the final. Benzema is a fantastic player and has had a great season, Ballon d'Or winner. So, but I think France are a bit more concerned in other areas of the pitch at the moment. Obviously, got no Kante, Pogba, the spine of the team that won the World Cup. So, I think Benzema is a massive blow. But then you look at Dembele, you look at Mbappe, you look at Griezmann. So they've got enough firepower up there. Just a case of how they can shuffle that front three around to compete against other teams.
That's very interesting indeed. Another big figure out, Sadio Mane for Senegal. They're going to be in action tomorrow. Talk about his absence and what that means. He's been their talisman in the lead up to the World Cup. Gabby, where does this leave Senegal?
Similarly, I think it is a big blow for Senegal to lose a quality player like Mane, who has performed creditably over the past few years, and obviously with Senegal as their leader. He is a leader for them as well, and I think it will be a tough road for them without him.
And what about you, Ronaldo? A key player in there. Who else is going to step up to the plate for Senegal?
Well, I mean, I had to readjust my fantasy team after I found out too. Yeah, Mane is huge. I mean, we saw what he's done at Liverpool for years. Actually, he's part, or if not the reason that Senegal is at the World Cup. They went through the playoff where they defeated Egypt. He won the African Nations League also against Egypt. So it will be interesting to see who steps up. I know that they're very resilient in the midfield. Where there's Koulibaly, there's Mendy from Chelsea, there's also a guy from Everton. But I think the goals predominantly come from Mane, but there's also Sarr who could also add value to that. Maybe Koyate, who's a bit more defensively minded, but he also has the experience at international level, could be that leader that Gabby spoke about, because not having Mane, you will need that leadership. And maybe they wouldn't be so heavily dependent on one player, and it may generate that camaraderie and that team cohesion that is needed. But obviously, Mane being out, that's a huge dent to the attacking firepower of Senegal.
Definitely. So, Emerson, when it comes to Mane and his ability
I think that we should look for some good things from a few of the African teams, but I have a few of my favorites in mind, like Brazil and England. So I am more looking forward to them performing.
Well, you're not picky at all. Well, we're gonna take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna take some WhatsApp messages that we've been receiving as well. We got some predictions that came in just moments ago too. We're gonna share them with you. But don't forget, this is Match Day Live from the 246 here. When we come back, more here on the show. This is Match Day Live from the 246. I'm your host, Damien Best. You've heard from our analysts here on the opening night of the action. Of course, congratulations to Ecuador winning 2-0 over Qatar, the host there. Tomorrow we've got a full slate of matches for you, and we're going to preview those in just a moment or two. But today we're going to have our play of the game, our goal of the day, as we like to call it, here on the opening episode. Of course, we had a wonderful strike from Valencia. That is going to be our goal of the day. So there you have it, Valencia, our goal of the day, a fantastic header. Just to take you back through that sequence of play there, we're going to get a little bit of talk about that goal from our analyst, of course. Let's go back to Emerson Boyce. That header was superb in terms of the execution and the placement.
Definitely. It was a fantastic cross-in, and it was a brave header. Clinical finish, bottom corner. Great positioning, and he attacked the ball. So any tips there for any young player that's attacking the ball, keep your eye on the ball and hit the corner.
Beautiful for you too as well, Pee Wee?
Yeah, funny enough, I actually thought that he would have been flagged offside for this one, as this one had a little bit more, because he actually came from the position that he started to come back to head the ball, so displaying a bit of acrobatics there, or a bit of flexibility. But again, after being the first goal being marginally offside, I thought that one would have been flagged offside as well, but a good finish in the end. I must have known all about scoring headers, so I would take his word for the technical quality of it.
Thanks so much, Ronaldo Jilts there. Well, let's get into the other part of this assignment as well. Looking ahead to tomorrow, England versus Iran at 9 o'clock. Gabby, what do you think will happen there?
I think England will come out with a 3-0 win. Hopefully Kane can score a few there. 2 to 3 of the goals would be great, but I'm thinking 3-0 in favor of England.
3-0 in favor of England. I wonder if Emerson would agree with that. What about the other fixtures? We've also got the Netherlands at noon. So what will happen there in that fixture, as well as United States versus Wales?
I've gone for a surprise.
Go ahead. What do you
Go
have
ahead,
there?
Emerson.
Sorry. I've gone for a surprise. I reckon Wales will steal it with a 1-0 win.
Gareth Bale.
Gareth Bale. I don't think he can keep up the headlines. And I think, and obviously for the England game, I see them having a good performance against Iran. Southgate's under pressure back in the UK, and they need goals. So I've gone with a 4-0. I've gone with a big Harry Kane 2, Sterling, and Foden I've gone with.
Wow. So the USA game, so Christian Pulisic doesn't do anything in this game, I suppose, PB.
Well, I actually have USA to win that one, 2-1. Obviously, the Americans will know Gareth Bale quite well, as he's now playing his trade at Elliott FC in the MLS. But I have the USA, and it may be a bit sentimental as well, seeing that USA will be representing the CONCACAF Confederation. So I have USA to win 2-1 over Wales, and I have Netherlands to edge Senegal 1-0. And
Wow.
I share Gabby's scoreline with England against Iran.
We have the same exact predictions. I have Netherlands to edge Senegal 1-0, and I have the USA to nip Wales 2-1.
And you can see at the bottom of our screen, the predictions are coming in fast and furious. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but you guys have been doing a good job in terms of predicting these games. But tomorrow is going to be key as well. But we also got another aspect we want to touch on quickly, our CBC Fantasy League. Now, a lot of guys have picked different teams here. Nobody seemed to have really penciled in anybody from Ecuador or Qatar. What's really happening here, Emerson? I understand that you're going to be the front man in our CBC Fantasy League. There's a lot of boasting and bragging going on. 48 strong so far in our Fantasy League, by the way. So get involved, folks.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, the Fantasy League's going to be good. I reckon I'm going to be up there. My team's pretty strong. I've gone with the PSG front line, and as well as De Bruyne and Eriksen and Di Maria in midfield. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
So if you want to take part, folks, you can see on your screen, that is the CBC Fantasy leaderboard. We got about 48 teams in there at the moment. You can see from the long list there. And there's so much bragging going on. I mean, I'll give you a little hint about my team. It's being led by Kylian Mbappe. So just let you know that I'll be looking for goals from him at some point during here. Gabby, I don't know, what's your lineup looking like?
So I'm hoping for some results tomorrow from Kane and Foden that I have in my lineup. On Tuesday, I'm hoping that Di Maria and Messi can help me out with some points. I have them in my lineup. In the back, I have Van Dijk, Dumfries, Diaz, and Mendes. So I have a fairly diverse lineup. But yeah, I'm hoping over the next few days I'm gonna, gain some points.
Very quickly, Ronaldo, your team.
Yeah, I have been a bit economical in my selection. I actually have Messi and Mitrovic from Fulham who's been buying in the goals. Those are my star players. I have Cancelo and Pavard as the two fullbacks who are very good at scoring goals. And I have Jude Bellingham. So maybe tomorrow Jude could have some assists or some goals and get me off to a good start so I can maintain with the front runners.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. You've heard from the analysts. This has been Match Day Live from the 246. Tomorrow's another day. We've got a triple header in store for you. All the action here on CBC TV. Of course, Match Day Live from the 246, sponsored by Guardian Group. We thank them so much. Tomorrow's another day. See you guys again.